All right, thank you so much for staying with Daybreak. Let's continue the conversation at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. Honorable Kositanya, I believe you're still with us. I was about to give you a chance to respond. Honorable Kositanya?
Yes, sir. Trevor.
Yes, go ahead. I mean, Governor Mutua was saying that the reason you are against this BBI is because it is tough on graft.
You know, I think that is why you saw last time I avoided shaking his hand because I didn't want him to complain and saying that I was too harsh on him for rather pressing his hand. But let me say this, Trevor, to Governor Mutua. We have had this issue of corruption for a very long time. And it is an issue that we all, even us in the Tanga team, and remember this Tanga tag came from the president, whether he meant well with it or not, but we have embraced it and it is resonating well with us. We support the fight against corruption. We will be the last people to try and block any corruption cases, any corruption issues that come up. And it's not enough to just say, so and so is corrupt, just for the purpose of gaining political mileage or spoiling that person, soiling that person's name. We want to have serious cases of corruption dealt with expeditiously. And it does not matter whether you stole in 1963 or you stole in 2021. What matters is, as far as whenever the evidence is available, then it should be dealt with. We have the issue of the cancer billionaires that is going on. We discussed it last week on this show. Those are very glaring. The evidence is so much on top of the table that you don't even need to go through a very lengthy and litigious route to try and look for evidence. The evidence is right there. People walking in and out of cancer with the tenders of billions of shillings. We want to support that. And we want to support anybody who has feels that even if they feel that Caleb Kositanya is corrupt, please, we have the institutions that are there. Unfortunately, they are being used now to play politics, because we saw the MCAs from Baringo who went through a process of rejecting BBI, and their democratic right is being interfered with because they are being summoned to EACC Nakuru. Yeah. I'm told they traveled all the way to Nakuru the other day, and then they were told, okay, go back. We are not ready to start your cases now. It's just an issue of intimidation. So when I see my colleagues celebrating this BBI story, it really baffles me. When we see the level of intimidation, summoning of nominated and MCAs and elected MCAs to the Jubilee basement to be given the Right Act and given some money. Yeah. You know, really, I salute the MCAs of Baringo for having done what they do. Okay. They may not be in the entire process, but they have taken their facts. Okay. And let me tell you something here, Trevor, just to wind up. These people should know we have a game. We have a plan, a very serious plan, and they are falling into our trap. Do they really believe the MCAs of some areas voted yes because they wanted, they believed in it? Really, we have a plan, and they are falling into our trap. So that they can't see, and we'll not allow them to see for now.
So did you tell the MCAs in Kericho to vote yes?
You see, now the problem with you, Trevor, is you think our region is only Kericho and the Kalenjin areas. We have a plan that...
We are discussing that plan right now. Let's find out what the game plan really is. Because someone, Isa Nuno, is actually asking you a question here. He says that Tanga are claiming political heavyweight in the country, yet they can't face a contest of constitutional reform. You can't claim that BBI is not a priority, yet 2022 is a priority for you.
Well, 2022 is a priority because it is in the plan, it's in the constitution, it has been budgeted for. BBI is not a plan. BBI is a mpango ya kando that has just come from a handshake between two people. Okay. BBI is not people-driven. And again, also this BBI, Trevor, we need to separate the issues that actually require a referendum. When you look at the entire BBI document, for 35% to go to the counties, you don't require a referendum. Okay. For the World Development Fund, you don't require a referendum. In fact, a good example is my county was an issue, whereby the World Development Fund has already been debated and passed and already being implemented by the MCAs. You do not require a referendum on many of the issues that are on BBI. Okay. All these other issues have been put in so that we can now glorify this expanded executive. that has excited Governor Mutua, that now we're going to have tribal kings. And you saw him explain this region and that region and that region. We are trying to fight tribalism. One of the ways of trying to fight tribalism is to ensure that we enter into free, fair elections, whereby people who are running the contest of elections or of the presidential election, they will be a winner and a loser, as Otiende said, and you must accept.
Okay.
You must accept the election results.
All right.
The issue that the reason why we have been having issues with our election is there's one particular candidate.
All right, we seem to be having a challenge there with Honorable Kositany. We'll go back to him. Otiende?
He said in the ballot. Then we've had issues. We've had issues with the election. So it is a matter of having elections, accept election results, and we shall move on. Because we don't fight because of the way we are voted. We fight because people, a certain person, refuse to accept that there has been a free and fair election and that they have lost.
Okay.
So that is where we need to begin. And nothing on BBI fuels that.
All right.
Nothing on BBI tells us that that particular individual will now accept results in 2022.
All right. Honorable Otiende?
My friend Honorable Kositany is engaging in subterfuge for the sake of argument, and it's very sad. As I said before, you know, every time he speaks, he starts by saying we have nothing to do with BBI. Then he goes on to give the reasons that they've kept regurgitating on why BBI is a bad document. And then in the same breath, they say, do we think that they did not tell those MCAs to pass the document? It's subterfuge at many levels. Let's start with this. One, he says that we should separate the issues that require referendum from those which do not. Legally, that is just not there. It's just outrageous. Once you have proposed amendments, and as long as those amendments contain parts that would require referendum, and you are required to reduce it into a draft constitutional amendment bill, as we have. Once you do that, and it goes to the counties, and 24 counties pass it, that document goes to a referendum as it is. You cannot start nitpicking. If you want to nitpick, and they're free to nitpick, you could nitpick the bits that can be amended in Parliament without a referendum, but that's a separate process. Secondly, you cannot tell Kenyans that you have a plan, and in that plan, you are saying that the document is bad and is dangerous for the country. But in your plan, you are encouraging the MCAs to pass that document, which you say is dangerous for the country. What kind of plan is that if you mean well for this country? You know, you cannot say, again, and that's the third thing, and I think it's dishonest, that you are interested in taking the leadership of this country, but you are disinterested in remaking the future of this country in the form and style of government that is to come. That is like saying you want to live in a house, but you're not interested in how it's being built. That's just dishonest. But even beyond that, the Baringo issue, I've had it being repeated over and over again. And I think EACC has been accused of intimidation. As far as I understand it, and they've done this before, they've even done this in Parliament, the EACC came in not because of the way Baringo MCAs voted, but because of what happened during the vote. As you saw, they were even fracas, you know. And the EACC has taken it upon itself, and we can debate that, that they have a mandate to look into the personal conduct even of MPs and MCAs, even when they are voting or debating. We can debate that. But to my understanding, they have not been summoned because of the way they voted. Lastly, I think is what Governor Mutua said, and I think he is right to a great extent in that, and I've said it, that the Tanga team seems to have a disproportionate number of associates who have been either convicted or charged or associated with corruption. And that is just a fact. So when my brother Kositany says, oh, we must go back in history to corruption that happened in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, that is okay. But that's an admission that that statement is true. We do not want any corruption even 100 years back. We do not want any corruption now. The only thing they must not do is try to mislead Kenyans and say, when we take over, there will be no corruption and all that. The DP is the second on command and has been so for the last 8, now going on 9 years. He has been the most vociferous voice of what we had called the dynamic duo. What is it that he's planning to tell Kenyans or to do, to tell Parliament, that he cannot do now and he has not been able to do in the past 8 years. If, as he wants us to believe, this administration has tolerated corruption, as he keeps saying, then the fault of that and the consequences of that must visit on those in this administration, and especially him as the second in command. And in fact, it's an admission then that if you want to fight corruption in this country, don't let anybody like the DP near the reins of power.
Thank you.
Yes. Now, Trevor, following with the trajectory that was taken by our colleague, Honorable Kostanyi, because I believe in the background of what happened in this week, it's important for us to now open the curtains more clearly for Kenyans to have a robust, honest discussion that will lead us into making a decision when it comes to the referendum. And that decision is going to have a huge impact on the lives of Kenyans and the future of this country. And so I think it's not really just a heated argument or just a useless debate for that matter. Neither is it a contest about who wins or loses between the DP and Raila and Mutua and Mudavadi and the others. It is really about the lives of our people. And I think that's the form and mind with which you should see this debate. See, Trevor, when this journey started at Bomas, and then the last session that we had at Bomas, remember the DP came up, and so many people vilified him because of the things he said on the floor that day. And when we came for this show here, I was amongst the few that supported what he said, supported the view that in my thinking then, I thought that an honest debate has started that will cure all the issues and misconceptions that are there within the understanding of that document. And I thought that was a good way, because then if they were going to stay inside and have this debate continuously, then we were going to have an end result whereby all those issues have been thrashed out by inclusive internal discussion by all the parties. But unfortunately, as we have moved on since that time, and remember the events then when there were considerations and submissions were made to the committee on BBI, and everybody started coming out and saying, oh, our issues now have been included. I remember seeing the pastoralist community, the disabled team, and so on. And indeed, even at one time, the DP himself said that at least we have influenced a few things now that are changing. That was good for discussion, and it was a good way forward. If that is how we would have proceeded up to now, we would have had what indeed has been the argument, and the words, taking the words of Mheshimiwa Kostani, an uncontested, referendum. Yeah. That should have been the road to that no contest referendum, because issues have been resolved. Okay. Now, the problem we have is then somewhere midway, when those issues have been raised, there seems to have been a resolution, then the sidestepping or extricating yourself, and then you argue from outside. And I think that's the problem we have. If we are going to have an honest discussion about this, we'll be saying to the team, Caleb, Kostani, and the rest of Kenyans that we'll be discussing is, if there are still any issues that you see now with where the process is, because it cannot go backwards, and now say that if you have a referendum, we are going to have a referendum on this date, or that time, in this format, in this way, and then answers can come to Kenyans. Because, of course, it may have sounded rude when it was said at that time that the train has taken off, but indeed now it has really taken off, and we must have that conversation. Lastly, let's also debunk this theory that when Governor Mutua here said that we are going to have so and so and so and so as envisaged in the BBI, let's stop using this thing of tribal king when you are referring to the ethnic balance that is required by our constitution in any of the offices that one may want to form in leadership of this country. And that is what is in the BBI. I mean, would you say that Uhuru Kenyatta is a tribal king because he's the president, and then William Ruto is also a tribal king? I mean, does it mean then that it's only when you expand that to say that you need to include a few others, is that when they become tribal? Because we have to admit, and we said here the last time, yes, we come from tribes. Yeah. That is not, that's not a secret. I mean, so if you get a position, Trevor, is that the time when you become a tribal king? And yet, even when you are born in the hospital where you are given a name there in between called your surname, which denotes where you come from and the tribe that you come from. And this is global. You know, so I mean, it's scaremongering, you know, when we use that, that concept. Okay. Let's agree that the way forward for us as a republic right now is to debate honestly the content of the BBI, say these issues are of value or they are not, and then we can go to a referendum and vote. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Governor Mutua, there's a question here from Caleb Klein who says, please ask if he doesn't believe that the money allocated to the counties by the BBI will anonymously multiply corruption in counties.
Yeah, but you see, that's the assumption that there is massive corruption in counties. You see, majority of, or say the large extent of corruption, it's wrong words of English, it's very early in the morning, but majority of corruption cases are in the national government. Because you look at, in terms of money, we get 15% to share among 47 counties. 85% remains in the national government. That's where you get all these scandals. The dams, for example, that Kositani knows about, that never existed, but only 7 billion was paid off, as they say, because that's very little money for them. To us, it's a lot of money, etc., etc. So when you increase the money from 15 to 35%, it just means that more work will be done. And let me be very clear. I abhor corruption. We abhor corruption. Corruption is a big problem in our country. And it's a big problem, especially when you see people in very, very high echelons of corruption or of leadership being taunted to be corrupt. And they don't deny it. I've never heard some of these people called corrupt come out and say, mimi si corrupt, mimi sijaiba pesa, because they know they have stolen. They know that even their rise to power came through shady deals during the Moi era, etc., etc. And so when they talk about bringing more money to counties, does not mean that you're bringing more corruption, you're bringing development. Because if you go to counties today, you'll see what has been done in terms of healthcare. Hospitals are clean. In Machakos, for example, we've got ambulances for every location that were not there before. We have opened up roads. We've built markets. We have changed the lives of 190 on the ground. Even when they say there's corruption in counties, if today you try to remove devolution in Kenya, you'd have a revolution. Because 190 love devolution. A lot has been done. So when you increase the money, a lot more will be done. So these fears of increased money corruption is because people really do not understand. And these are people who live in the city. They don't live in the villages. Weko hapa, weko Nairobi, weko Mombasa, in the big cities, they have nice cars, they have tap water. But you go to the village where women who used to walk 10 kilometers a day, women who used to sell themselves for sex, so they could actually be carried by lorries of sand, like I found out in my area of Masinga, where a mother would have to, you know, prostitute herself to get a ride to go 10 kilometers to the river to bring water for her husband and her family, and now have water outside their house because I've put piped water there. It's changed lives. You know, so these people are talking in theory. So they need to understand that Kenya has moved on, and I like what Senator Matangi said, that people are brighter now. People have access to information. People know what is good for them. And people know when they're being conned. All right.
There's still more questions on Twitter, and I want to bring them up to each one and every one of you. This one is still...
I think, Trevor, you need to give me a right to reply to something.
Actually, the next question comes to you, but yeah, go ahead.
Yes, you know, I've had my good colleagues there. I've turned this show into a discussion about the deputy president and corruption and all that. But that is okay, because that is a perception that they want to paint. But remember, Trevor, as somebody, one Kenyan the other day tweeted, and he said that if you want to know the clean people, it is the people.
Honorable Kositani? All right, we seem to be having a challenge there with the internet connection.
Skeleton somewhere, and if you are corrupted somewhere, is actually on the BBI side, on the so-called handshake side, because their files are on top of the table at the DCI or at the ESCC, so they're told, support BBI or we will come for you. So let us walk this journey with a lot of dignity and know that we have no problem. The Deputy President is on record as saying anybody who feels that he has a case to answer to go to court. So let's take this issue coming to a TV show and try to badmouth the Deputy President. And I want to tell us that in BBI, what guarantees us that Raila Odinga will accept the results of the next general election?
Okay. In fact, let's take the questions that are coming from the viewers. And Honorable Kositany, this first one comes to you. Sawe says, Caleb says BBI is not in line with their priorities. If I may ask, what are the priorities for this team? They talk of bottom-up approach. BBI also advocates for the same. They are not being honest.
Well,
Yes, go ahead, Honorable Kositany. All right.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Do you want me to answer that now?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, we talk of a bottom-up approach, and for our bottom-up approach, we don't require a referendum. We don't require to spend 14 billion. We don't require to intimidate and harass and coerce every member of the county assembly and county and governors that they will face corruption charges if they don't support BBI. Our bottom-up approach.
All right. I seem to be having a bit of a challenge with the Honorable Kositany. Let's fix that and then I'll get back to him. Juma Steve 11 says, I appreciate that BBI has some gains, but we must also accept that it has a downside. Dr. Alfred Mutua should not lie that it won't have an effect on the wage bill. Apart from the Prime Minister, the extra MPs and senators will definitely do that. Quick reaction?
No, I concur. I concur that the wage bill of some of the leaders at the top because will be increased. And the reason we are doing this is this. If you ask people why do we have more MPs, they will clearly tell you we'll have more MPs because people want more constituencies. The fight right now we are facing in our counties is because people are fighting for more constituencies. Why? Because when you've got more constituencies, you've got this one person as an MP, but it also means that you are getting more CDF. So there's more money coming to the ground. So it's a balancing act, yes. We are getting more constituencies, so we're getting slightly more MPs who will be representing our people, but people want them. If you go to the villages today and ask people whether they want an extra constituency, they all say yes. You tell them, but it's going to cost. We're going to have one MP who is extra, who will be paid salaries. They say we don't care. We mulipe, wacha tukue na constituency yetu, because they know the benefits of getting a constituency. Okay. So when you look at the benefits vis-a-vis the loss, the benefits are higher than the loss.
Otile, let me hear your views on this also, because it has also come up a lot, and there are many people who are saying that the taxes and the burden on the Mwananchi is already too high.
Trevor, democracy is expensive. If you do not want expensive, go for tyranny or dictatorship. It is much cheaper. Right now, we are going on a referendum on a simple question of do Kenyans support the changes to this constitution. And we have to go on referendum despite the fact that the people that those Kenyans elected at the lowest level, the MCAs, have overwhelmingly indicated that Kenyans support it. If we didn't want expensive, we would not be spending the monies we're going to spend on referendum. We have already a number of members of parliament. We have many counties. If we didn't want expensive, we would simply reduce the counties or do away with them. We would reduce the constituencies to 10 or 15. We would not even need to have the regular elections, which are all very expensive. By definition, democracy must be expensive. And the question of the wage bill is not a function of the amendment. That is a function of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. We have to look at what we get vis-a-vis what we can spend. I would be the first to accept if the Salaries and Remuneration Commission came up and said that in view of the changes in the numbers of members of parliament, we have to halve the salaries of all members of parliament. We would accept. Because after all, it is their jurisdiction. And that alone will have resolved all those issues that anyone is raising around that issue. Let me come to the issue I think that was posed by one of the viewers to Honorable Kositany and call out their dishonesty. The Tanga team says, and Caleb here repeats, that they have policies and approaches that will improve and using the bottom up approach. Trevor, whatever policies and approaches you have, there are three ways of effecting them. One is if they are so fundamental, you put them in the Constitution. This is the opportunity they had, as Senator Wamatangi was saying. How come we've not seen a single proposal in all these 3 years saying, please insert this and change this because it's in line with our bottom-up approach? Secondly, the second way is by statute. There are so many members of Tanga in parliament, and in fact, sometimes they claim that they are the majority. How come we have not seen a single bill or a single proposal in parliament that says this is in line with our bottom-up approach? The third way is through administrative measures. What is that proposal that the DP has made in cabinet or outside cabinet as deputy president, which this administration has refused to implement, and which we can all say that had you implemented this as proposed by the DP, we would be in a better place? It is total dishonesty. Okay. Now, coming back to the invitation by my brother Kositani, he's inviting me to go back to the debate on the contents of the BBI and to start arguing that what is it that will make the Right Honorable Amolo Odinga accept. You see, I declined that invitation because, as I told you, at every turn, my brother Kositani starts by saying they have nothing to do with BBI, then proceeds to say the things that they think are bad in BBI. That invitation was defeated by the MCAs, and it will be defeated in Parliament, and it will be defeated by the people. So I don't need to go on it right now. Okay. We just need to focus on the positive.
All right, let me bring up another view that's coming through. Actually, this is to you as well. Laban Kitele Jr. says, Otiende Amolo says Baringo MCAs were summoned because of the fracas. Is it only those who voted against the bill who were involved in the fracas? Did the opponents of the bill fight each other?
My understanding is that all the MCAs were invited, those who voted for or against. And quite honestly, I don't think that anybody in their right mind would invite anyone because of how they vote. Because in law, parliamentary privilege, which extends to the county assemblies, insulates you against being asked for either criminal or civil sanction for the way you vote, or for indeed what you say in parliament. So if that was the invitation, that would be defeated. That would be very easy. Okay. My understanding, and this is not the first time EACC has done this, my understanding is that EACC takes it upon itself to summon those who they think have misconducted themselves in the eyes of the public. Whether they have that jurisdiction or not is a different matter. Okay. Sometimes I think that is a jurisdiction that should be exercised by the ombudsman or by other entities, but that's a different matter.
Can I chip in into this very quickly, because I know Matanga has not spoken. I think the issue here is, when I look at the violence that happened in Baringo, I sit back as a Kenyan and ask myself, why are some people associated with violence? Why is it that some people, when they engage in the activities, they are followed by violence? We saw what happened in Baringo, because, and we know that the Tanga team was mentioned and everything. There was violence. We saw what happened in Kisii. There was violence. They have this passion towards violence. When there was Keno the other day here in Kiambu, there was violence. And we go back to the history of their leaders, all the way to the Kiamba church burning. There are questions that they always mentioned about who killed who. What was the name of Jama who died? Juma, was it?
Yes, Juma.
You know, they talk about who killed who. Why is it that them and their leaders, when they are mentioned, that violence, murder, mayhem is attached to them? What is it in them that triggers violence? Are they violent people? Are they dangerous people? Are they inclined that way? Because the normal Mwananchi wants, the Kenyan wants peace and stability. Yeah. We want harmony. We don't want violent people. Okay. But I am seeing a trend here of them being associated with violence, which we need to understand. Why is it that they are associated with violence? Okay.
Wamatangi, there's a question here of John Mutiso on Twitter, says, Mr. Wamatangi, which roadmap needs a 5 billion bribe to go through county assemblies? Kizuri chajiuza, kibaya chajitembeza.
Which roadmap?
Yes.
Requires a 5 billion bribe?
Yes.
That is in reference probably to the car grant.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, fine. As I answer, I'll answer it, Trevor, but as I answer that, I just wanted to chip in on what was that question on why is it necessary that we have extra members of parliament? And I just wanted to bring in the lawful aspect of it. I believe Otiende Amolo would do that still in a good way. But remember, Trevor, we have a lawful requirement, indeed a constitutional requirement, because our law has already been structured and requires that we adhere to equity and equality in representation. And that is why it prescribes a quota in representation, such that even before the BBI proposals, the situation has existed whereby there has been serious complaints from several areas of representation in this country, whereby many people felt that there are some constituencies that should be abolished because they don't meet that threshold. Yeah. There are many people, like for example in Kiambu, who have continuously felt that it is an unfair process whereby we are not only overrepresented but denied. Yeah. Because we have a number in one constituency that equals to probably 10 times of another sub-county in another county. And to address that, at the end of the day, because it is a constitutional requirement, even if there was no BBI, there would have to be a settlement to that question. That is it right or is it fair that you have one constituency that has got almost 500,000 people, like in Ruiru, with over 450,000 people in one constituency, and you have another constituency with barely 50,000 people, all of the same, all the two identified and recognized by law with equal measure of benefits from government, in terms of CDF, in terms of other considerations. And so I think that question must be looked at differently, other than just that the BBI is creating other questions. You can wipe out BBI, or rather you can erase it, but you still have to settle that question. Okay. Maybe on this brouhaha in Baringo, yeah. I think in the first place, we would have to say that it is shameful, in my view, that all the time when simple issues have got to be resolved in a county assembly, that you find that it ends up in boxing and bowling and bruises. It's a terrible thing. Okay. And I think it gives legislative work. It gives assemblies and parliament a very, very bad image. And I think the first thing we should be saying to the MCAs of Baringo is that besides first the verdict that you pass on BBI, respect the role that you have been given as representatives of the people. Respect the House. Okay. Respect that role, and then you can come up with a decision, either yes or no, that's respectful. Now, lastly,
this is what you've just answered now, Patrick MJ.
On the 5 billion.
Yes.
But I mean, I think that question we've addressed it so many times here. And I think that's what Otiende Amolo started with when he was talking about that indeed most of these monies had been taken up as loans. My question, actually my concern earlier in our last discussion last week was that even when this money was being taken earlier as loans, it was not even being repaid in the first place. I mean, most of the MCs, remember I said that as a member of the Public Accounts Committee from the period between 2013 and 2017, I can tell you with authority that more than 3/4 of that money was never paid because MCAs took the money, they were given their logbooks, they went away. Okay. And because other houses of parliament, including other areas of government, enjoy the same facility, the idea then in parliament was that it is cheaper to allow somebody to have that grant and maintain their own vehicle and fuel it and have their own driver, other than provide them with a vehicle, provide them with maintenance for that vehicle, give them a driver, service that vehicle. That is going to be more expensive in the long run for government. That was the framework along which then it was agreed that you can give the grant and somebody then will have the vehicle for the 5 years and not demand for transport.
All right. Alex Wanjohi says, I totally differ with those saying that Tanga is fearing to face the BBI proponents in the referendum. In 2010, didn't Ruto alone lead the no campaign and the government was on the yes? I see it as part of his strategy. Kositanya, are you with us? All right, we seem to be having another issue with Kositanya. We'll find him in just a bit. Cornelius Bet You'll be in for a rude shock. MCAs as car grants and BBI passed on an inch of joblessness, hunger, poverty, etc. Let the referendum be brought down for Kenyans' approval and you'll get the real picture. All right, let's see what else is going on. Kiprono Abraham 1 says, if the DP is such strong that is giving sleepless nights to all presidential aspirants and the current president, then he's ripe for presidency so that he can deal with the deep state and cartels sabotaging government performance. All right, so let's come back to the dailies, and I see on the front page of the Standard, and Otiende, I'll start with you here. I know you're not Raila Amolo Odinga's spokesperson, but when it is crafted that Raila says, if I am elected, is this the clearest indication yet that he's running for president?
Well, I think, first, the right honorable Raila Amolo Odinga does not need speculation on this matter because he's spoken on it severally. And I think he's spoken very clearly that for now he's focusing on the BBI and the referendum. And immediately thereafter, then he will embark on the question of whether to take off the reins of this country. But there are those of us who are clear in our minds that the right person to take over and who has won severally and who has, for reasons that we don't need to go into, not gotten the opportunity to lead this country is Raila Amolo Odinga. So that's not much worth speculation. In any event, you know that all those who have declared interest, the only person who's not spoken about him is Governor Mutua here, but everyone else who's declared interest start by mentioning Raila Amolo Odinga, either as an adversary or as a person they want to support them. Yeah. And I think that tells you that ultimately there would be no serious contest, presidential contest in this country if Raila Amolo Odinga is not on that ballot.
As a senior counsel, Dr. Tiende, there's been allegations that there was a deal in the NASA formulation that once he ran, he would support somebody else. What is your position on this? Was there such a deal?
Trevor, I've spoken to this, and it's a very simple situation. If we have a deal with you, like now Governor Mutua wants to run for president, and if he decides to make me his running mate and says that once I have been elected, then I will also support you, that deal is good, but it's only as good as he's elected. If he's not elected, it's a postponed deal. It's as simple as that. Until that time when then he's elected, then I wouldn't expect him to support me on that deal. And if I want to stick to that deal, I must keep supporting him. If I choose to leave that deal, then I go on it alone and tell Governor Mutua, now either you support me or you go, and I go. So there's nothing around that. But in any event, Trevor, and I've said this again, you know, what was left of NASA died on the day of the swearing in. And you can hear all sorts of stories. I summarize them as why I did not attend Uhuru and other such stories, short stories. Why I did not attend Uhuru Park and other such short stories. Because from everyone who was the principal, you will have had at least 3 or 4 different versions. But I can tell you that all those things are untrue, because on that morning, we were at Intercontinental. Even all my colleagues from all those parties were there. They were equally surprised when they got phone calls that their principals were now not attending. And they started fizzling out one by one. I can give you up to 17 names from those 3 parties. So what was left of NASA died the day the 3 other principals did not gain the courage to come for completion of the journey they had started. So the less that we talk about it, the better. If there's to be any coalitions or agreements to be crafted, they must be futuristic. They cannot be historical.
All right. Governor Mutua, are you ready to face Raila?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. But even as I tell you why I'm the best person for this country, when you talk about, and I like the expression of why I did not attend Uhuru Park and other stories, ... You know, when these leaders never showed up for the purported swearing in at Uhuru Park, to me, it was an issue of unreliability. A leader needs to be reliable. And one of my strengths is that when I stick with you, I stick with you. We gain together, we lose together. It's like a football team. When you win together. When you lose together. You push together. And the fact that they did not show up, it's a sign that they are weak. They don't have a backbone. They are weak. and they will always be thinking about themselves, not about the bigger cause. So that really exposed themselves. And you know, a sense of weakness is even like drugs, for example. A drug is said to be weak when it is expired. So you can say these are fellas that are expired because they don't have the backbone to stand up. And it took a lot of courage to do what was happened, whether people like it or not. Honorable Raila Odinga has been a statesman in this country. Some of the freedoms that we're enjoying, like today even sitting here, are as a result of the hard work that he did. He got locked up for many years and everything. And if he decides to run, and we're not sure that he's going to run for president, we will meet him and face him face to face in terms of how we are going to improve the lives of our people. Because Kenyans are now tired of people saying, just choose me for the sake of choosing me. We are on a journey to come from here to there. We don't want a journey to come just from here to there. We want a journey to change the lives of our people. For example, when I talk about being elected for president, when I say I'm running for president, is because I have sat down, I have worked on a manifesto, I have done the calculations, and I know that I can build 40 kilometers of tarmac roads in every constituency within 2 years. I can build a factory in every ward and create over 500,000 jobs. I can reduce bureaucracy so that we are like Rwanda, South Africa, Australia, and others, and get industrialization happening in our country. I can provide 3 million jobs in 5 years for our young people. But at the end of it, I am going to be an economic president. This is a president who is going to say, we don't need handouts, we need economics. Let me ask you, Senator Matangi here knows that we get a lot of questions, and Omolo here all the time, to go to churches and give contributions kujengea Mungu kanisa. Why is it, and I lived in the US, I lived in Australia, why is it that you go to the United States, they have very beautiful churches, but they don't hold fundraisers to build their churches? You go to Rome, they don't hold fundraisers to build their beautiful churches. You go all over the world, they don't hold fundraisers. Why do we have to hold fundraisers here to build a church for God? It's because majority of the people who surround that church are poor. You go and you find a church, magnificent church, surrounded by mud huts all around. You know, tumejengea Mungu lakini sisi ni maskini wa mwisho. What we need is to grow the economy like they have done in the past, so that now fungu la 10 ya wale watu wanaenda kwa hiyo kanisa is so huge because the people are already rich around that area, that they can build their own church. Okay. That's the economics that we want to take Kenya to, so that every person, and when I look at it, when they say if I'm elected and all that, we need to know, and we'll be scrutinizing Raila Amolo Odinga and asking him clearly, if you want to become president, what new ideas will you have? And who will be part of your team? Okay. Because as you know, you have to have a strong team to get you to where you want to go.
All right.
Yes,
on this question of endorsements.
Yes, you know, Trevor, let me start from where my good friend Otiende Amolo stopped from. Because when it gets to this discussion, then between me and him, it gets very interesting. Because, you know, there's this insistence that he has pursued all the time. And, you know, we can agree on one thing. We agree entirely with him that, indeed, that Raila is running. And that one we can that he can win. But on this question that he has won many times, that one, that one.
To disagree on that one.
I believe we have to. But two things on this. I would call it the memories of another day by the team of 5.
That's another book.
That's another book.
You know, I mean, because it's interesting how this former NASA team seems to continue to reminisce, and on how they were. You know, it's like that. You know, teenage romance. You know, remember how we used to hold hands, and they don't seem to get over it, one way or the other. And I think that's what Otiende Amolo was trying to address. I think it's time for everybody to stand on their feet, because once you say you want to run for president, then go ahead and declare your presidency, and run, form your team. And if you are true, brave, and clear in your mind, then you should have what you want to offer Kenyans, and Kenyans will vote for you, yes or no, depending on what you offer. What I would just want to say is, because in my mind, I have no doubt that indeed Raila is running. And whether he's going to be endorsed or he's going to be supported by the other 4
Yeah.
You know, Kalonzo and Wetangula and Mudavadi and any other person he may want to support him. I think he would also need to remember, in my view, that because he's one of the main supporters and architects of BBI, that it requires that balancing of the office of five. And so he also cannot run alone, even though he will not be running or seeking the support of those. And the more he builds alliances and gets a team that has got the face of Kenya to run when he's running, the better it is going to be convincing that he's also equally sold to the concept of BBI,
Yeah.
that we need to see a face of Kenya. Yes, he would be the lead, but the proposing around that he'll be running, and it looks like, you know, he's going to run over everything and everyone and go it alone and win it. I think that's what would need to remove as you know, the storyline. Yeah. I think moving forward, and I've said this here before, since 1992, it is clear to everybody's mind that if you want to seek and get leadership in this country now, you better think more. Think about who and who is going to be with you. Mm-hmm. It is no longer going to be possible for any one person to come and convince this country that as a one-man show, that you can lead this country and be president. What we want to see more as Kenyans is, because we are many, because we have many communities, we are many nations, as we have recently been describing ourselves, you know, from the Kikuyu nation, the Kamba nation, and so on. We want to see people who are telling us that we can be able to bring you together now. That victory is not only about yourself, it is about us. That when we benefit all of us. And when it comes to deciding how we are going to be governed, it is all ourselves. So I think, besides the fact that all these big names, from Raila to William Ruto and all the others, deciding that they're going to run, let us see who amongst them can convince us more that they have the mind, the heart, and the wherewithal, the desire to bring this country together, by showing us the face of who they want to run with. Yeah. Then that we will be happier, because we'll be saying then it is true. This, what we are saying in BBI is saying, is now being practiced. It is indeed what we are being shown by our presidential candidates as what they want to do. And remember, I said I might also be running. So I'll be very soon.
Just declare it.
Just in case. Just in case.
What are you running for? Is there a marathon in Kiambu?
I said, Trevor, when I was contributing here, and I was supporting my brother, Dr. Alfred Mutua, that I'm also in my drawing board. I might decide to run, but I'll be deciding whether part of my running mate will be you Trevor, because
people don't declare when they're running. Otiende, I'll give you a final chance to give closing remarks. We've run out of time. A minute each. I'll start from you.
Well, you know, my brother Senator Matangi, now that he's the chief whip of the Senate, we'll remember history, but we do not want to go there. You'll remember in 2007, the arbiter said he did not know who won, and the winner was sworn in at night. That's not a legitimate win. You'll remember in 2017, a whole chunk of evidence was locked out. In 2013, you'll remember in 2017, the Supreme Court agreed with my views on this and asked you then to open the servers. To date, I'm waiting for you to update me, to take me where the servers are. I might finally open them. But as they say, yaliyopita sio ndwele, ganga yajayo. That is why there's the handshake. The handshake is intended to address the circumstances and historical factors that led to those instances, and to make sure that moving on in future, whoever wins legitimately is declared, and whoever loses does not begrudge anyone. But it also it includes those who lose, so that you're not out there, but you're in parliament as the leader of the opposition. And I see a lot of people whose seats right now I have already identified in parliament, especially my brother Kusitani, I will show him where their seat is in parliament.
Speaking of Kusitani, I think Kusitani
just allow me to you really hear Otiende Amolo coughing when he's talking. So I think he just told
Because Trevor denied us water.
I think he's most likely to have said something untrue. but we give a very simple answer.
Yeah.
To all the issues that have been raised by my good friend Otiende Amolo, and an answer to all the questions of 2007 and 2017 and 2013, that numbers don't lie.
Let's bring in Kusitani. Kusitani, give you a chance to make your final remarks because we lost you there, and now you're joining us on phone. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Trevor. I'm happy to hear my good friend Otiende talking of a win-win situation. He has come down from the win-lose. But what I want to say is that I still need to be told how amending the Constitution will secure us in terms of those people, especially like Raila Odinga, Otiende Amolo's party leader, who refused to accept obvious election results. And even when the Supreme Court has ordered a re-election, a repeat election, then they refuse to participate and cause violence to try and illegitimize the election. And it is also not fair for Alfred Mutua to tell us that when we expand the representation, then that means more resources to the people. It is even possible now, and it would be cheaper. And from Tanga, we are looking at this thing from an economic point of view. These other fellows are looking at it from a position of their purported leaders, that it is possible. Then if we are talking about misrepresentation and resources getting closer to the people, just increase the funding to the constituencies that have a higher population. Like for Ruiru, for example, like for Kikuyu constituency, which has over 400,000 people. Ruiru has almost 600,000 people. Increase the funding so that the distribution of CDF is proportionate to the population that you represent. So we don't have to increase the members of parliament. That extra 50 or so million that will be used to cater for their salaries and all of these members of parliament can build a very huge institution in one section of the constituency. So we really need to discuss BBI vis-a-vis the economic situation that we are in. Let us not lie to ourselves that BBI is going to sort out election violence in terms of people refusing to accept the election results. Let us not lie to ourselves that we need to have a policy for bottom-up approach. We've already given the discussions. We've already started practicing it. And it is costing people a lot of sleepless nights. And we are happy that the conversation in every... when you began, I heard you saying that the conversation is about Raila Odinga, William Ruto, Raila Odinga. That is the conversation where I come from. They say people don't discuss a nobody. When you are being discussed, whether in the negativity or positivity, then you know you have made an impact. So we are happy that the conversation has changed. We are discussing the wheelbarrow. We are discussing the bottom-up approach. And as we go forward, let us ask Kenyans to really look at BBI with real scrutiny so that we know what we are getting ourselves into. We have maintained as Tanga that it is possible for us to have a non-contested referendum, whereby a referendum, as Otiende Amolo is saying, is an election. I don't agree with that. Yes, it is an election, kind of, but we should not be, it is possible to go into a referendum where we're not contesting anything, so that we can even be cheaper for us to hold it. It will not cost us the 14 billion. It can cost us even 2 billion. So we need to look at all these things vis-a-vis the economy and vis-a-vis telling Kenyans the truth.
Okay. Wamatangi, closing remarks.
Yes, thank you, Trevor. I think it's good that we give Kenyans a breather at this time. Now the document belongs to the people. We are going to a referendum. And political leaders have spoken too long, too loud, and too much about the BBI. It has now been taken down to county assemblies. The county assemblies have given their word on behalf of the people that they represent. Now this document is headed to a referendum after we've debated it in Parliament. And I will be expecting that in between that time to go to the referendum, that politicians are now going to shut up and let the people speak. Let the people dialogue amongst themselves and make decisions that because no politician will accompany a member of the public to the ballot box when it comes to that decision. And the independence of the decision that will come out will help this country then to map out a way forward for ourselves. So I think this time, let's allow breathing space for members of the public, and let's shelve interests, because other than the main political players that are Raila Odinga and William Ruto and others, and Mutua here and everybody else who wants big positions, and Wambatangi, of course. The point is, Trevor, that if now you can shelve those interests and let the people speak, then you're going to have an outcome that we'll be happy about. Remember how we enjoyed in 2010 when Kibaki lifted that document up in Uhuru Park, and the country felt we have won because this is our document. That's what we want to say after June when we have the referendum.
All right.
Just very quickly, first of all, several points. One is to thank my Twitter followers, because I hit the 1 million mark. It's not a big mark, but these are real ones. You see others actually buy them. But I got my mark, so I want to say Twitter. And the reason I'm bringing up Twitter is because when I was looking at the comments as we continued, people are commenting on what we're talking about. And I'm seeing people are reasonable, but I'm seeing a large group of people of that team that I called violent insulting me. They're saying Mujinga, Mushenzi, kwenda huko hakuna mali. And then I wondered to myself, I feel sorry for them, because it shows that mtoto wa nyoka ni nyoka, and it shows that they tend towards Kenyans need to learn that you have to agree to disagree without having to resort to insults. Give me logic. Talk to me without insulting me. I don't care whether they insult me, mi nimezoea. But but it shows their state of mind. It's a very simplistic way of thinking, which shows their kind of ideology that they aspire to. It is either their way or no way. About the BBI, Kenyans have to learn that Kenyans are always saying tunataka mabadiliko, but they don't want to change. They want things to remain the way they are. They vote the same way. Tunataka hatutaki watu corrupt, they vote for the corrupt leader. Hatutaki watu wabaya, they vote for the bad person. So Kenyans have to agree even for the BBI that at times it comes to say we want change, and we change in the way we move forward and the way we vote. The reality is that a majority of our young people are unemployed. When I came to Nairobi yesterday to prepare for this show, when you're stuck in the jam on the end of our highways, you see all these young men coming around and young women trying to sell things. And I asked one of them, how much profit do you make in a day? They take home 100 shillings. That's a profit they make if they sell several items. So when they hear of these mega scandals of dams and others, and they're taking 100, it shows that the leadership or the people at the top are really disconnected with the suffering of our young people. So we need leadership of strength and purpose in this country, but we also need leaders who can actually be able to develop our country. It's not just about politics at the end of the day. It's about development, and we need people with a track record. And let me say it again. We need leaders with a track record. There are people whose track record is waiting to be endorsed. There are people with track record of using their tribes to try and get supremacy and get a position. But there are people with a track record of development. If we want to stop our children lining up for visas to go to the US and the UK, then we need to have leaders with a track record, because they are going to develop this country so that it is other people lining up to get visas to come to Kenya.
All right, thank you so much. I wouldn't do you justice if I didn't go through some of your tweets. I know on Twitter you're already trending there, so there's a lot. I'm not able to go through all of them. By the way, if there's any abusive content in the tweets, we never really read them here on air, so don't wonder why sometimes your Twitter statements are not read. If it has any abusive content, we will not read it. Engineer Lazaro, do you believe someone can do donkey work like leveling the field by harmonies the Constitution, only to hand over mantle to the cowards who are sitting pretty, waiting to be endorsed? Raila name must appear in the ballot, all right? Wiki Sherry, I like how Honorable Matangi genuinely debates with full respect to law. It's unfortunate that Otiende Amolo keeps tagging others, yet he is tagged to Raila even in mind. He doesn't want to come out clear that ODM has no other choice other than Baba. Okay? Inyakweba says, even if the BBI was a super good document, just like the Constitution of Kenya 2010 was, what assurances do we have that the amendments will be fully implemented? The Constitution is never the problem, it's the implementers are, and that's the sad story. Nashpai says, are youths only meant for business while jobs for the old? If BBI meant well for the youth, then they could have come up with the ways to employ them besides tax holiday. BBI did not pass because we wanted. It was passed by MCAs because of what they were promised. All right. That's where we have to leave it for now. Honorable Dr. Tiende Amolo, Member of Parliament for Arieda, Honorable Dr. Kimani Wamatangi, Kiambu Senate and Majority Whip, His Excellency Dr. Alfred Mutua, Machakos Governor, and Honorable Caleb Kositany, Member of Parliament for Soi, was joining us live from Kabuchai. We had a bit of technical issues there. It was not anything of our making, and that is where we leave it for now. Thank you so much for making time for us. We're taking a quick break now. When we come back, it's Cooking Tips with Willis Raburu. See you in a bit.